Namaste. We're going to continue with the I Am discourses from where we left off in the last video, which was Discourse VI, and it's Part III. To continue, every student must take the responsibility of his own activity to qualify and qualifying the energy he sends forth. The mind cannot act upon anything that has not intelligence inherent within it. Do not allow yourself in the human sense to consider the element of time in anything you do, but to enter into a thing joyously and stick to it until it does manifest. Okay, so just remembering that manifestation is beyond space-time. It's beyond our third density space-time. So any thought of, am I manifesting properly? Why isn't this happening? Shouldn't this have happened by now? You're immediately resisting. That's the law of resistance. That eliminates the law of attraction immediately. Because you're taking away the law of receiving. You're replacing the law of receiving, or the law of allowing, with the law of resistance. Okay, so that neutralizes it. Okay, do not allow yourself in the human sense to consider the element of time in anything you do, but enter into a thing joyously and stick to it until it does manifest. Be like a blowtorch. If you will hold steady on the mighty God presence as the actor doing the thing, you will enter into the fullness and perfection of everything, ready for your use now. All permanent accomplishment must be by the self-conscious effort of the individual. Question: what is sympathy? Answer: it is but agreement with imperfection. Whatever you do, be adamant before human sympathy. Watch that you do not allow yourself to be dragged down into the quicksand when you can use your wings to lift yourself above its destruction. Judge not, but keep joyously entering into the I Am presence, and all things will manifest perfectly. For any imperfect condition, especially old age, use I am the perfection of that individual. No matter what is said in the outer world, you must be unaffected by it. For you are coming to this perfection, and you must bring it about consciously. If you do not watch, you can let in an expression in a moment that can follow you for years. If you do not erase it, when you are consciously using the great law, know that the active power of God's thought knows its direction, goes and performs perfectly. Consciously charge the I Am intelligence to use whatever is necessary. Say, I am intelligence. Qualify this with whatever is required. For healing, I had one student who was so qualified, the electronic circle about him with the power of healing, that he was called the healing shadow. Of course, it was not the shadow that healed, but the moment people contacted his electronic circle, they were healed instantly. This is Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. I'm being shown a late early fifth density wanderer. People. It was said that people who even came into contact with his shadow were healed. Well, this is the power of this. And Jesus said, all the things that I can do, you will do, and greater things will you do. So, there's something to think about. Question: understanding God's love. Understanding God as love. Why did God individualize himself? Now, this is a good question. Why did God individualize itself from the one Godhead? Answer: in order to have something to love. Question: why were the rays divided? Answer: in order to express love. Okay, so the rays are the densities of consciousness that also correspond to your 7 bodily chakras. Okay, there's 7 primary rays, and this goes from the red ray to the orange ray to the yellow ray to the green ray to the blue ray to the indigo ray to the violet ray. The red ray corresponds to first density consciousness experience, and that is a very low frequency, a very low vibratory consciousness level, and that corresponds to your root chakra, or your red ray energy center. And it goes up like that. So the orange ray would be your second energy center, your sacral chakra, and then yellow ray would be your third energy center, which corresponds to your solar plexus chakra. The green ray, which corresponds to the green, to the heart center, or the heart energy chakra, and the blue ray, which is your throat chakra, and the indigo ray, your third eye chakra, that's of unity, and the seventh, which is the indigo ray, the violet ray, sorry, which is the basically it's like a readout for all of your other energy centers. Okay, so why were the rays divided? In order to express love. If the rays weren't divided, then how would you know the difference between one level of consciousness and another? You wouldn't. How would you know to attain and to express that which you are in any one ray if you weren't different from another ray? Well, you wouldn't. So the one white, radiant, dazzling white light of the source divided itself into the 7 primary rays. There was actually 12, but the 7 primary rays that correspond to the human or the physical condition, the physical manifestation. After the 7th density, there is no physical. You go into the non-physical. Okay? So, the white, think of it as the white, radiant, dazzling radiance of God divided itself through a prism of sorts, a metaphorical prism. You know when you shine a white light through a prism and you get the 7 colours? This is what we're talking about, the 7 rays of consciousness, the 7 chakras, the 7 primary colours, the 7 primary notes in a musical scale. This is what we're talking about. It's all harmonics, it's all frequency, it's all vibration. And these rays were divided. The brilliant white ray, or the brilliant white light of God, was divided into the 7 primary rays. And then there's 5 other rays that are not in physical colour. They're in electromagnetic energy, non-physical energy, okay? But we will explain all of this in due course. Okay, so love is the active principle of God. When you are loving, you are enfolding what you are loving in that robe of God, that radiant presence and activity. Never condemn. Always try to understand whenever there seems to be wrong sex activity, and lift the consciousness of the individual by focusing the attention upon a high idea or ideal of some kind in order to control the thoughts, so the sex activity can come under conscious control of the individual through the use of his or her own will. The proper clean use of sex is for the expansion and expression of love in the procreation of a form that the incoming soul may have an harmonious and loving disposition and temperament. Let's just go over that again, because I've been shown to just explain this in great detail by my higher self. The proper clean use of sex is not fun, is not prostitution, is not sex parties or having sex for fun. That wasn't ever the intention for sex, not the primary intention. The proper clean use of the sex is for the expansion, expression of love in the procreation of a form. That's creating another human being, that the incoming soul may have an harmonious and loving disposition and temperament. In other words, if you create a baby, if you conceive a child, and at the point of conception you're having sex in improper ways, as in, there is no right or wrong, I've been shown this, but this is showing that when you are having sex to create a baby, when you are meaningfully trying to conceive a baby together, right, you need to be in a harmonious and loving state. If it's just sex, as in, well, rape, of course, is a terrible example of the biggest distortion and the most terrible use of sex. And even if you just have sex, casual sex, and then you make somebody pregnant, there's a very good chance that the incoming soul will not have as much of a loving disposition and temperament, and might be quite emotionally disturbed, or in some way mentally disturbed or physically disturbed in some way. There could be some physical, mental, or emotional distortions within that soul coming into that body, which then could manifest in the body. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. That's what I've just channeled through my higher self. Okay, to continue. The thought and feeling of the parents are the influencing, moulding activity. The nature of the life principle of the individual is to love. Now, just to clarify, my higher self is coming through and saying that there is nothing wrong with having sex for fun. In fact, this is greatly admired, and this is part of your experience, this is part of your enjoyment of being in the physical form. But when this comes to procreation and making co-creating another human being, it's very different. Okay, so that's something to be mindful for all of us. Benediction. Infinite God of love, we give thanks for thy gracious outpouring today, for thy mighty radiance filling all things everywhere. We give praise and thanks that we have entered into thy world, where everything is so fair, where thy radiance creative with every thought brings into perfection all things held within our thought. Now there's some notes here, and I'm going to read them because they're often fascinating and very, very interesting and very profound. Notes. Raising the body. Nada, by the way, is a feminine, divine aspect of the Godhead, or in other words, a ascended master who is a female. Nada raised her body 2,700 years ago in the case of 3 raising the body at one time. They might ascend at the same moment or within a few weeks or months, controlling the animal. Use I am here and I am there and I command silence there. Also look the animal in the eye and know that the love of God controls it. The difference between divine compassion and human sympathy is as great as that between light and darkness. Divine compassion holds the student's attention anchored to the mighty I am presence, calling it forth to produce perfection. Human sympathy is a rushing forth of energy, qualified by a feeling of imperfection, and but intensifies the imperfection already manifesting. Wow, mind-blowing discourse, and absolutely, mind-blowing. And it still continues. I mean, God, that's absolutely incredible. Right, to continue. Daughter of the God acts obedience to its laws, or the divine laws of the sphere in which he is acting, is always imperative to his steadily onward progression. Someday, I hope in the near future, we shall take up for consideration the elements of outer activity which are most disturbing and the effect of their activity upon the body. I do not wish to do this, however, until the students are strong enough to hear the truth of this activity without a single twinge of resistance or self-condemnation. Because to start an activity within the individual of either condition would be a mistake upon my part. I spoke some time ago about the student keeping on guard to watch that in an unguarded moment he or she did not find himself or herself unknowingly entertaining some feeling of resistance, criticism, or some activity which he or she later discovered had been acting. Every student should constantly use many times a day, for it only requires a minute, and silently declare, I am the invincible guard established, sustained, and maintained over my mind, body, my home and world, and my affairs. Keep conscious that this guard, being the I am presence, naturally has infinite intelligence. This will establish an intelligent guard and activity about you that does not have to be constantly repeated. Again, we come to the point where every time we use the expression I or I am, we know that it is the full power of love, wisdom, and intelligence acting. Use frequently, I am the full liberation of divine love acting. Now, as a preparatory activity for the day, I would suggest that the students, with great joy and firmness, after having refreshed themselves in the morning, would silently declare, knowing that the power of the declaration is self-sustained, knowing that the power that I am the governing love, wisdom, and power with its attendant intelligent activity, which is acting today in every single thing I do or say.